Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Robert Hagan. Robert, how's it going, man?
It is great to be here, bright and sunny outside. I am so excited, getting ready to talk some Bantam baseball, hopefully talk some Asotan baseball next week with a buddy of mine. But, you and I didn't bring up last week.
What did we forget?
The last week was 6 months that we've been bringing you this show on KLCZ.
Because it just doesn't feel like it's been 6 months at all.
It's just crazy to think 6 months has flown by.
It absolutely has. And we just keep getting more and more stuff to talk about, which continues to show that 2 hours is just not enough.
Yeah, exactly.
But today, I'm not talking about your shirt. The radio
more and more stuff.
Can't tell about your shirt.
Okay.
Geelong's on your shirt. I know they beat my Hawthorne Hawks, but it was a better game than I expected. But on today's show, we are finally going to do what we were going to do last week and do our first ever mock draft. Just the first 10 picks. We're not going to do that. It would take too long to go elsewhere. But we will have the first R&R Sports Report mock draft for the NFL draft. On the show, we'll be able to talk about the first weekend-ish of MLB baseball. Not quite a full week just yet. And give our second ever, MLB Power Rankings. There was a big trade in the NFL that we will be able to talk about. Like you said, we got a lot of high school sports going on, lots of LC sports as they're starting to wrap up a bunch of seasons going on. We'll get into that. Half of a hockey team is under COVID protocol right now.
I couldn't believe that when you sent me that. I'm like, where's this team at? Because you would think and follow along with everybody else what they're going and doing.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it. The All-Star game has been moved. We'll talk about that. A little bit of controversy there. Obviously, again, we'll talk about Geelong beating Hawthorne as well as everything else going in Aussie rules football because we talk about that here on this show. But the big thing, it's WrestleMania week. It is now a week-long thing. If you're a wrestling fan, you had Raw last night. You have the Hall of Fame tonight. You have NXT Stand and Deliver Wednesday and Thursday. Then you have SmackDown on Friday. Then you have WrestleMania Saturday and Sunday, which follows back up with Monday Night Raw on Monday. And then NXT moves from Wednesdays to Tuesdays, and it will go on Tuesday. So it's just more than a week long of just professional wrestling craziness.
All kinds of wrestling.
WrestleMania is going to have fans, which WWE hasn't had in over a year. So it's going to be crazy. We're going to do our previews of both NXT TakeOver, Stand and Deliver, and WrestleMania. So if you're not a wrestling fan, just bear with us for that time.
Do you think that they move to Raymond James for an extended or just tonight, just this weekend? Because they can't go to Thunderdome. I mean, they won't be going back to Tropicana because they've got baseball.
I know the Thunderdome has moved to another place. I can't think of where it is in Florida, but they've already moved. They're moving. And that's why they've also already filmed SmackDown. So we will see there. Obviously, it kind of is based on how WrestleMania goes. I guess they can go to Texas because they filled that stadium up because that's safe, apparently.
They filled it to the top, and even Biden, you guys are messing up. Why are you doing this? I mean, it's the little things, but
we got so much to talk about. But first, let's get into it. The men's national championship game was last night. Everyone was excited to see if Gonzaga could finish the season undefeated. But goodness, they ran into a freight train called the Baylor Bears.
Mm-hmm. It was a little rough. That was the first thing. I had two people come up to me this morning at school, and the very first two teachers to say anything to me. When you talk about it, it was not Gonzaga's night. Well, obviously, but
right.
And the one was quite adamant. You pair those two teams up anytime during the season, 9 times out of 10, he's like, Baylor's going to win. They just looked more physical. They looked more dominant. They were longer. They were able to poke the ball away from Timmy. Timmy had 5 turnovers
Timmy had a rough
in
night.
the first half alone. I mean, they were just long. They were able to shoot the ball, and it didn't matter who was out there to shoot. The only thing I did find a little odd about that Baylor team was they were so about going right after Timmy and all that, and then all of a sudden things turned the other direction, and all of a sudden they got 3 guys in foul trouble going in early in the second half. So
I think give credit to Mark Few for changing the game plan and kind of abandoning the 3 altogether, because no one on Gonzaga could hit one. They were really struggling from 3. Of course, Baylor was the exact opposite, and they couldn't miss from 3. But they did a nice job of changing things up and going right inside and using that aggression of Baylor against them and getting them into foul trouble. And I remember my dad actually sent me a message about halfway through the first half going, I think the only way that Gonzaga is going to win this game is to foul out the entire Baylor team.
Yeah.
And they were trying. They were 100% trying. Denise, I hate his shirt. I really do. That's what I think about it.
Did she finally see it? Did Eric, Eric, do you like the shirt? I mean, there's the biggest thing. And Denise was all like, she's like, what did you order?
No, it's an awesome shirt. I'm glad I'm getting him into the sport. And I like that we had him pick a rival so we can discuss it. Sadly, the only time they played this year.
But I have to tell Denise and I have to tell Eric, I waited till like 5 minutes before the show before I took off my sweatshirt. So he had no idea.
No idea. It would have been better if he waited until the show. But I'm going to disagree with your coworker about Baylor winning 9 out of 10. I think if they would have played back in December, it would have been really interesting. Or was it late November? Wait, I know Gonzaga had their COVID issues. They were supposed to play Baylor this year. But either way, that would have been interesting. But Gonzaga and Baylor came in going in 2 opposite directions, energy level-wise, for this game. Baylor completely crushes Houston and is able to take their foot off the gas and walk through the rest of that Final Four. Gonzaga winning off a banked 3, which we will get into, in one of the better games I have seen in a tournament's history. You could tell they were tired. There's no way you're getting sleep that night. And then you're going from that to we win one more, we're going to be the first undefeated team in 45 years.
Right. The only thing I can see, and I understand, they were tired, but I think if you look and pair things up, and you look at shooters, you look at rebounders, all-around players, defensive guys, one thing I noticed with Baylor is it didn't matter who was out there, they can shoot. I mean, their depth of their bench was a lot deeper than what Mark Few had, because I think he only rotated in a total of 7 guys total, I think. And I didn't look at box score because why would you want to look at it after the way they played? But
shooting wise, but how good was Vital, who was basically their third center, who was only getting as much playtime as he was because the other guys were in foul trouble all the time. Comes in, plays 27 minutes, gets 11 rebounds, and it felt like he had 30. It was like every big possession, Vital came down with it. It was he had a fantastic game. I mean, give full credit to Butler. There is zero excuses if you're a Gonzaga fan. They just completely got outplayed. Yes. Yeah. If they play a bunch of other times, maybe Baylor does not start as hot as they do, where they went on a 9-0 run to start the game. They're up 29-12 early on in the first half. They couldn't miss from 3 early on. They hit, I want to say, their first 7. Like, that's not always going to happen. And obviously Gonzaga was able to get it back to with 9, but even then it took them so long because, you get gut punched right at the beginning of a national championship game. It's going to mess you up.
But I think what Baylor did too is they went right after Suggs, because Suggs was that guy that, had the team on their back at the very end of that UCLA game. And so, okay, let's go right at him. He had 2 quick fouls within 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And so he was already to bench, and to pull Cook in, and you look at Cook, he's still young. I mean, he ended up with he didn't play near as much, but I think he ended up with still 10 minutes. That's a huge push against Gonzaga or any team.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the big one, Corey Kispert come out. Were they 1 of 9 at halftime for 3-pointers?
Yeah, it's finished 5 of 17.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely struggled from there. My dad is a big proponent of, he hates Suggs and thinks he's very overrated. Do you believe that camp? I've seen that from a few people on the internet.
I think he was overhyped. I mean, he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. I like the way he plays. I think he was way overhyped of how what he could do and what he is capable of. Do I think he needs to stick around one more year at the college level? I do. Do I think he will? No. I think he's gone. He'll be either the number 1 or number 2 guy off the board in the draft. But I really think he could easily benefit from 1 more year.
Mm-hmm.
Him knowing that it's going to be him and Timmy. Kispert's gone. He's a senior. Cook's gone. I'm not sure who else. You look at the rest of the team. Nebhart is a junior, and I think II is a junior. Can you imagine rebuilding that with at least 4 guys coming back?
Right.
I know these guys and these kids are all about the money, but
of course,
I think they can benefit from one more
I
year.
would tell any kid, if you're going to get drafted in the top 5 of whatever sport it's going to be,
sign it. But,
just take it, because you're not going to get that opportunity, and there's a chance that you get injured, or you have a bad year period and you drop and you cost yourself.
So that that would be the Tua effect.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about that. Tua got hurt. Why didn't he sign? Why do you say 1 more year?
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with a kid that makes either decision.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, if you're going to go top 5 in the NBA draft, take it. It's not going to get much better than that.
So if you had to look at that, and maybe this is something in the next few weeks after this is all done, everybody's process, who do you think would be your top 5 getting drafted? I think Garza is one from Iowa. That kid's just a monster, playing.
What's the guy from, where was it, Oklahoma State? Cade Cunningham or whatever. Yeah, I think he's probably one.
I mean, there's a lot to think about for some of these kids, and I understand it. They're wanting to make money and all that, but what that team could do, and you can't hold your head low for that. I mean, you go in 31-0,
mm-hmm.
but it's like you said a few minutes ago. What would it have been if we got to see this game the end of October, early November, when they were supposed to play?
This morning, Kristen Peak from Yahoo Sports, here is her mock draft top 5. So she has Cade Cunningham going number 1. She has it the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, obviously you don't know the team.
Right.
But she has Cade Cunningham going 1. She has Jalen Suggs going number 2. She has Jalen Green from the G League Ignite going to Detroit. She has Evan Mobley from USC going 4. And Scotty Barnes from Florida State going 5. So that's her top 5.
So I mean, there's still a lot to happen, but I think I knew what they could do to turn. I mean, Gonzaga is that name now that it isn't that Cinderella team that came out 20 years ago. I mean, look at the drafts that are the guys that are coming to want to play, and
how many times now are they starting in the preseason top 10?
Right.
How many? I mean, they've now made 2 national championships in the last 10 years.
Yeah, well, they were wire to wire this year from July, number 1 the entire time.
It is crazy that I want to say it was the 5th time or 6th time that the preseason 1 and 2 faced off in the national championship.
I think we had the best 2 teams hands down all season long. Like you and I talked. Gonzaga was there. Baylor was anywhere from 2 to 5 all season long.
Yeah, I think if Baylor doesn't have their COVID issues,
I think it's the other way around.
They're possibly undefeated as well.
Yeah,
and they were very good. Struggled in January as they were dealing with all of that kind of stuff, and then completely dominated. We were talking about Gonzaga dominating all these teams. That UCLA game that we're going to talk a little bit about here in a second, being only the second time all year they didn't beat the team by more than 10. Mm-hmm. Baylor comes in a tournament and beats every single team they played by more than 15.
Oh, yeah. It's just crazy.
Straight dominant. All right, I want to talk about this UCLA game just for a minute, because just I don't know about yours, but my Facebook just blew up after that game. Obviously, so Zhuang's going to be fantastic from UCLA. He gets his own rebound there late in overtime, puts it back, ties the game up again in overtime with 3 seconds to go.
3 point something. Yeah.
And then Jalen Suggs banks in the three, just a perfect shot, ran it out. I think he thought he was going to make it from off of his hand to get the win. You have so many lead changes in that game. Gonzaga had the biggest lead of the game, and it was 7 points.
Right.
And it was for like a second.
And that was the thing they really hit on. And I remember them and Barkley talking about it. 15 ties, 19 lead changes. And I had to go back and double check with it. Mm-hmm. But it was just crazy to think about who was in control of that game the entire time. I mean, I was right on the edge of my seat too. And then Denise was sitting there watching it. And even coming down to the last one, that last 3.3, when he put it up, I was up off my chair. I mean,
I scared my son. They were already painting their eggs. I'm like, I'll be there in a minute. I have to watch the rest of this game. And they're painting eggs, and I freaked out and chased.
Oh, yeah, I did the same thing. I mean, it was just
jumped
exciting.
Out of his chair, almost broke the egg.
It's just crazy to think about what a game like that meant to the entire, area. I mean, look at what the Pac-12 did. I mean, who would have figured? You and I talked about it. Pac-12 did not look all that good. I mean, UCLA was fourth in the Pac-12, third or fourth in the Pac-12, and they had
had to play an extra game.
Yeah, and had to play an extra game. So I don't think the Pac-12 was as strong going in, but I don't know what it was that they fed them once they got to Indiana, because all of those teams just.
But even then, who knows how strong all these teams are, because everyone dealt with the COVID issues and mixing and matching schedules in November and December. So you're not really getting into that groove. Once teams get into their groove, obviously the Pac-12 had a lot of great teams, and they're just beating each other up, but they weren't getting that respect.
And even Colorado looked great. Their first game, even though they took the loss and they ended out, but they still looked great going in. But, I mean, this was the one big thing, and I was talking to Pat Savota today, and Pat and I work together up at the school. He is the assistant coach for the girls Clarkson Bantams basketball team, and we're talking that, with everything going on between them, but I want to give a hats off and a tip of the cap to NCAA. Yep, okay. Yes, I said that. I mean, for them to have the tournament the way they did, the play-ins, everything, organizing everybody all together in the Indianapolis area, Indiana area, Bloomington, all that area, to be able to do that, have one team that has to basically forfeit, and to be able to plan all of this and control with. That was really the only game that got canceled or any kind of issues with anybody. I mean, we all complain about NCAA, some of the rules, different things, football, baseball, basketball, all of them. But I'm 100% tip my hat. Those guys did unbelievable to run a tournament this year, and something that we all needed. You know how hard it was last year in March and not have anything.
I agree.
It was just nuts, and hats off to those guys for.
And I really liked the setup that they had on the men's side with the big screen that was behind them.
Right.
Though we'll talk about the women's championship here shortly. They didn't have that big screen, but it looked like they had more people at their stadium, because obviously Texas had far less restrictions than Indy. But they did a really cool job of setting those.
Let's just make sure they have a better
up and
practice area and all that.
No joke. I got a question for you. Was Gonzaga UCLA the greatest Final Four game of all time?
It's got to be in the top 5. I'm trying to remember all the games from the Fab Five to some of the games from when Bird was in Indiana many years ago.
The only game I think it's behind for sure as far as tournament games go is Kentucky Duke from '92.
All right.
But that was an Elite Eight game.
Mm-hmm. I think hands down in the top 5. I mean, when a game has me so intrigued to the point that I don't get up and even move away from my seat, even during the game,
mm-hmm.
even during the commercials, it's got me locked in, and that's what happened with this game. I just so impressed with.
So I'll bring out 2 that I thought of, and they were both finals, and I had to look up what year they were so I could sound smarter.
You're already smarter. You're guru.
And by the way, if you're listening on either the Facebook or YouTube pages, or if you're listening online and you want to chime in, go check out R&R Sports Report on Facebook or YouTube, and let me know. I want to know if anyone believes what game they would put ahead of Gonzaga and UCLA as far as their favorite Final Four game. So here are 2 that I thought of. How about Duke Butler from 2010?
Yeah,
that perfect. Obviously, I mean, Duke is thought of as one of the biggest powerhouses in the NCAA. Butler was that underdog coming in, comes down to the wire, and Butler throws that little over half-court shot to try to win the game. They're down 2 off the backboard, off the front rim, just barely missing.
Right.
Or Villanova, North Carolina, which was just a couple years ago in 2016, where North Carolina hit that crazy double pump 3-pointer to tie it, and Villanova comes right back down and hits the 3 to win the game.
Well, what about Villanova?
And the championship.
What about Villanova, Georgetown?
See, that one's a little older for me.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah.
So I can't say I sat and watched it.
Here's the age difference. Here we go. 10 years. I mean, I was only 11.
Well, I wasn't quite 11. What year was that game?
1985.
Yeah, I was born.
Yeah,
I was 1 year old.
So I guess, I mean, it depends on era. I mean, you throw it out to some of these others too.
Paul on our Facebook comments, Michigan and Seton Hall in 1989.
Right.
It's another one I cannot say I remember watching live.
It depends on who you look at.
I'm calling you old, by the
way. I guess it just kind of depends on the era you grew up and all that, and
but like you said, I think it's going to end up on everyone's top 5 list.
Oh yeah, by far.
Or right now, or whatever era you grew up in, I don't think you can find 5 Final Four games that were better than that. It was, again, the biggest lead was 7. What'd you say? 19 lead changes in the game. It goes to overtime, almost goes to double overtime. Undefeated team versus a team that was in the first 4. UCLA, I believe they still won the most national championships in basketball. So just ridiculous. All right, let's get to the women's game because that game was really good too. We were going to go out to the park as a family on Monday or Sunday, and there for a little bit we started getting ready because I was watching this game and Stanford just pulled away and looked like they were going to run away with it. So we started getting ready, and then as obviously the kids are taking their sweet time, all of a sudden Arizona's chipping away. I'm like, all right, hold on. We got to watch the end of it. But Stanford does win this, and crazy that we're talking about the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
How about an all Pac-12 women's national championship game? Stanford wins at 54-53, again, after jumping out 16-8 in the first quarter. Arizona's biggest lead in the entire game, 1.
Mm-hmm.
They led 3-2 and 21-20. That was it. About a minute of leading for Arizona, but they come all the way back, and Ari McDonald, she was going to take the last shot. Stanford do it too. Basically triple teamed her. She still got it really close to the rim, even though that was the ugliest put up I've ever seen because she obviously had to force it. I was really surprised that I believe I could have been wrong because again we were kind of getting ready and I was standing up at that point. I'm pretty sure Arizona had a timeout still. And I think once that play started breaking down, I'm kind of surprised they didn't go ahead and just call a timeout and try to set something up. Did you get to watch any of this?
I didn't get to watch any of this one, but except for little clips of highlights. But yeah, I was shocked they didn't, because I think they had 2 timeouts left. Did they not?
I'm one or two, yeah.
And I'm surprised.
But I believe they had at least one.
But on the same hand, I mean, even not just this game, but the Final Four, both of those games were crazy. I mean, you gave me a bad time. You gave me a bad time. I actually picked all 4 of the women's side.
Yeah, no, and then I had a chance to still beat you with South Carolina, and Stanford messed that up.
But
Eric Watkins posted on there, the stat man. Stanford is the first team in the men's or women's tournament history to win both Final Four games by a point.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Just about a point. But Brian and I did get to watch the South Carolina Stanford game.
I watched that one too.
And it was
that was my chance.
Yeah,
my chance to beat you in both brackets.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this game is going to be nuts. And they came down to 2 points? I mean,
a point.
And a point there, point. Yeah. And it just, but who figured UConn would have lost to Arizona?
That's what they do. Arizona they lose in the Final Four game.
Arizona just peaked at the right time. I think this was probably the best set of college basketball that we've seen through both brackets, through both sides, in many, many years.
Yeah, I want to say 3 of the 4 Final Four games were fantastic. Obviously, Baylor crushing Houston was that wasn't very fun.
No, but you feel bad for Calvin Sampson. And Sampson, everybody around here knows who Calvin Sampson is.
Yeah, they just ran into a really hot team. And then the 2 national championship games, I mean, were enjoyable to watch. Obviously, as a Gonzaga fan, a little disappointing.
It was a gut check.
But they kept, especially there about halfway through the second half with Gonzaga, it started looking like they were going to get a run and make it an interesting game. And that's when Baylor just stepped on the neck and went, nope, we're done. Like, you've made it a single digits. It's 16 again within 30 seconds. It was crazy. So a fantastic time, as you said earlier. Just great to have the tournament back. Congratulations to the NCAA for running both tournaments and only having the one cancellation. I mean, yes, they had the weight room controversy and stuff. So I can't give them full credit because it's still the NCAA and they do stupid stuff.
You know that's going to be brought up next year and 100%. So
yeah, absolutely. So
were you surprised almost that it was foreshadowing with the Roy Williams thing? Roy Williams, 70 years old, retires after 33 years. I mean, he did that in the end of the men's semifinal game. Announced that. Were you shocked that he retired? I figured he'd add another year, full year in, but
he's 70. I'm not that surprised. I don't think he is Larry Brown, where you're going to see him in a year trying to coach somewhere else. I think he's had a good run. 33 years of head coaching experience.
Well, yeah, 15 seasons with Kansas, unbelievable. Well, I'm the only guy to have 400 wins, over 400 wins, in 2 big division wins. His last national championship was against Gonzaga. You brought that game up back in 2017. Do you think he is the best or one of the top 5 head coaches of all time?
Top 5. Coach K is number 1 to me.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's some older ones that I would have to go back and look. Obviously, I mean, UCLA was so dominant.
Yeah, you have to put John Wooden there.
John Wooden, 100%. I mean, he might be at the very bottom of the top 5, maybe slipping out. Guaranteed top 10.
Right.
But I would think I'd probably put him in top 5 if I did some research. It'd be pretty close. What about you?
It was great to see him. I mean, I understand that it was time for him to slow down a little bit, but for me, he's got to be top 3, 4, somewhere right in there. I mean, like you said, Coach K, Dean Smith. You got to throw Dean Smith in there too. But John Wooden.
Who's the better North Carolina coach?
Yeah, then you got to look at that. How many wins does Dean Smith have? I mean, that's the tough one. You look at Roy Williams; he has 485 with North Carolina, so I think he's just below that. I mean, you ask,
Dean Smith is 5th all time with 879 wins. Bob Knight is 4th with 899. Then Roy Williams. Forgetting Jim Boeheim from Syracuse. He's over 1,000. Coach K is 1,100. and 70 wins.
Yeah, but I mean, look at some of these names that we say nowadays that of coaches that we huge behind. Tony Bennett. Look what Tony Bennett did. I mean, he had a great few years up here at WSU, but he looks a heck of a lot better in Virginia. Calvin Sampson, he had some great years here in Pullman, but I think he's done better in Houston. I mean, there's a lot of names you can throw out there. You could throw out Jim Valvano, from the Wolfpack and how he played. And there's a lot of great college coaches. I mean, if we had to try to do the best or the greatest top 10 coaches, it'd be very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get to baseball. We're finally here. We give you for the first time ever in R&R Sports Report. Well, no, we did some playoff stuff. We did some playoff scoreboards. But here's your first ever regular season MLB Scoreboard update. How about that? Earlier in the day, the Tigers beat the Twins 4-3. Nationals beat the Braves 6-5. Astros win late, scoring 2 in the ninth to beat the Angels 4-2. The Cincinnati Reds completely destroy the Pittsburgh Pirates 14-1. The Yankees, off of a 3-run Aaron Judge home run in the 8th inning, beating the Orioles 7-0.
Did you do that just on purpose?
Which one?
The Aaron Judge one.
Yeah, I literally just saw it. It happened just last inning. The Yankees up 7-0. Cardinals over Miami 3-2. Mets are over Philadelphia, trying to give them their first loss of the season. Mets leading 5-1. That's in the 7th inning. Tampa Bay over Boston right now, 3-1 in the 7th. Milwaukee all over Chicago, 4-0 in the 6th. And the Texas Rangers over Toronto, 5-1 in the bottom of the 5th. Arizona, Colorado just getting started. And then you get the Dodgers and the A's, White Sox and Mariners, and Giants and Padres still later tonight.
Yeah, looking forward to those things. LCFC students, did you know that there's an organization on campus that wants to pay you for your writing? Well, there is. The Pathfinder newspaper is always looking for talented student writers to join their team for coverage of campus comings and goings, the LC Warrior sports, and other news that affect students here on campus. Stop by the sub 201 or email the Pathfinder at lcmail.lcsc.edu for more information.
And definitely make sure to check out the R&R Sports Report Facebook and YouTube pages.
We gained another like and follow this.
Yeah, we are 37 likes away from that 500 mark, but we're also going to allow follows. If we get the 500 follows, we're doing that as well. We're only 14 follows away from reaching 500 and having to face the legendary Kai Fong in a 2-on-1 tennis match. So
share it with your friends.
Share it with the friends. Let them know. Force them to follow and like this page. Like just pin them down and make them do it. Steal their phones and just do it for them.
There's a lot of people that want to see you and I get crushed by Kai Fong.
It's gonna have. It's just we stand no chance. But this is the R&R Sports Report on KLCZ 88.9 FM Lewiston. It's currently 60 degrees outside. It's been so nice.
So
Haley and I even did some yard work today. What was that about?
Well, yeah. And now tomorrow is supposed to be so.
Well, that's why we got it done now.
All right, couple big guys names on IL already.
Oh, the Tatis one was really scary. I actually watched that live. I had it on the second TV while I was watching the Gonzaga National Championship game, and all of a sudden I look over and Tatis is laying on the ground. Left shoulder subluxation. However you say that, I'm not a doctor. Luckily, they came out today saying no surgery needed. They were believing if he needed surgery, he could have been out for the year.
Right.
They were saying 4 to 6 months. But instead, the Padres are hoping they have him back after just a 10-day IL stint.
Well, that's
crazy.
Well, that's you and I have San Diego right there at the top of our picks, and it's just crazy to think you actually have him. I wonder how that's going to affect this ball club, but I don't think it's going to be a huge.
Not if he's only out
10, yeah.
And I would, if I'm them, I'm better safe than sorry with it. You don't need to rush him back at this point. Washington Nationals finally playing today. their first game of the season. The Mets finally had their first game yesterday because they were supposed to play the Nationals. But because of all the COVID stuff, the Nationals had to put 10 players on the IL to start the season. Just not the way you wanted things to go. It didn't take long for COVID to once again cause a little bit of havoc in Major League Baseball. I put on here the Yankees, man, the bats are starting to wake up against Baltimore because that's the team that's going to wake up most bats.
Well, that's what woke up. Who did they play? Pittsburgh today. I mean, that's the same thing. I mean, Pittsburgh's that team that anybody's going to get a win on. Cincinnati comes out and just handles them.
But I just want to show Michael King looks fantastic. He came in relief on Sunday and just crushed it. Mm-hmm. Gave up no hits on, I think, 4 innings. Montgomery looking good. As a Yankee fan, the pitching rotation was the question. And right now, it's the bats that are just not getting things going. So that's been fantastic. How about the Houston Astros sweeping my pick to win the AL West, the Oakland A's? Obviously, still 150-some games to go, so not a big deal. But outscored Oakland 35-9 in the 4-game set. And that's with garbage cans just all over the ballpark. Did you see Angels fans last night throwing garbage cans on the field?
Yeah, I saw that. It's like, come on, guys, really.
Or how about Ohtani having a ridiculous inning, throws a 101-mile-an-hour fastball, and then in the same inning hit a 451-foot home run?
And he's the other person I want to put in that conversation that I messaged you about. Is he the best player on the AL? And is Corey Seager the best player on the NL?
Who had the best week?
Through the first week. I mean, there's lots of things. For me, it's got to be Corey Seager overall. Yeah, I mean, he 9-17, 4 runs, 6 RBIs. Huge on-base percentage, at almost 64%. But it's just, you look at those guys that make up these teams, and I think Ohtani is going to be that guy for the Angels.
If I have to pick a player of the week, and Seager's up there for sure, he had a great week. But give me the rookie. Give me your mean Mercedes for the Chicago White Sox.
He had great stats too.
What did he start out? 8 for 8 to start his season. He is now 12 of 18 with a home run, 4 runs, 6 RBIs. He just continues to hit. Had 3 more hits against Seattle yesterday. As you're talking about Corey Seager having a great on-base percentage, Mercedes currently leading the league in batting average and on-base percentage. But again, we're 4 or 5 games in for everybody. So, I mean, it's not going to last. But if you for doing one player of the week, give me Mercedes for sure. All right. Second time ever we're doing our Mlb Power Rankings. And Robert, I will let you start.
We'll start number 5, and I'm going to go the LA Angels. Ohtani just looks great. It doesn't matter if they're going to have him pitch him or wherever. I think he is probably the best person for that ball club. He just complements Mike Trout so well. And I think Mike Trout, like I said, he's my pick for MVP this year. I think he's going to have another huge year. Number 4, I have Toronto. Toronto is off to a hot start.
Well, I beat my Yankees.
They held your Yankees in check. I think that's the only reason I have them there right now. That could easily fall back here in the next week or so. The shocker for me, and that's why I have them at 3, was Minnesota. Minnesota has also played quite well this week, last week. But like you said, we're a week in.
Oh, yeah. Power rankings will change a lot.
Yeah, and
for sure.
Except when we got to the end of the NFL season, you notice they all stuck there.
Oh, of course. And these will stick once we get later on in the season.
But 1 and 2, and in that order, 1 and 2, it's got to be the Dodgers and the Astros. They've just both been playing unbelievable. Seager's looked great. Houston has looked good without Springer there. Having Altuve there. Even though, you hate to root on him, but
I'm definitely not rooting for the Astros.
But, and this is coming from a Mariner fan, and we're still kind of – we were okay. We were leading there for a while, and now we're back to, 2 and 2.
Mm-hmm. All right, my top 5. I'm going to put the Philadelphia Phillies as my 15. Probably a little high, but again, they started out 4-0. And the fact that they won 4 games, they swept the Braves in a 3-game set. and in their first 4 games, they've given up 6 runs. Their pitching has just a ridiculous ERA right now, and that's how they worked it with Atlanta. I believe all 3 starters made it to the 7th inning, which is insane here early on in the season, as most pitchers are on a pitch count, so they didn't even have to really get into that bullpen. So give me Philadelphia at 5. I saw the Yankees at 4. I dropped them down from 2 on here. The Blue Jays did do pretty well. It's that pitching that their young pitching is showing a lot of depth. They didn't have Chapman for the whole first weekend. They still don't have Zach Britton. But it's the bats that worried me a little bit. Obviously, Baltimore is letting them get going as Judges hit 2 home runs in the last 2 days. Stanton hit a ridiculous 471-foot home run last night for a grand slam, 115 off the bat. He is the most frustrating batter to watch as a fan ever, because his batting swing is so weird, and when he misses, he looks so uncomfortable up there. But then the next thing you know, he just crushes one. So I have the Yankees still at 4. I'm going to have Toronto up at 3. Again, they did beat the Yankees 2 out of 3. Those young bats are really, really good. I think that their pitching, even though they're dealing with a lot of injuries, looked really good against the Yankees as well. And I'm with you. Houston 2, Dodgers 1. I think the Dodgers might live at 1 for a long time. We'll see with Houston. But when you sweep in a 4-game set the team that I thought was going to win your division to start it, I'll put you up at number 2.
And the big one for me is, as I looked at these earlier, the stats is LA has 61 hits already in 5 games. You look at Houston, they have 58 hits in 5 games. And then it's like a 10-hit drop-off from Minnesota, Chicago, Kansas City. So, I mean, what these 2 ball clubs bring, I mean, is it the managers? Is it Dave Roberts? Is it the guys that are just out there pushing their teams?
Well, it's not even that. It's just the amount of talent.
Well, I mean, it's got a ton of talent there. And I was shocked, and I'm maybe more amazed that I thought Springer was a major spark plug for Houston, but it seems like they have not missed a beat, even with him leaving.
Right. But, I mean, we will see. Again, it's only been a week.
Early, yeah.
So we'll see as far as depth goes. I mean, just things work out well. And that's the fun thing with baseball is I saw Yankee fans losing their mind after the Yankees lost the first game of the season and going, why is Judge batting second? Why is Hicks batting third? This team is terrible. I was like, it's 1 game. Calm down. Like, who cares? DJ LeMahieu went 0 for 5 or 0 for 4 on opening day,
right,
and has been red hot since. I mean, everyone's going to have bad days. Everyone's going to have bad weeks. It's going to happen to all of them. It's just some are hot now, some aren't. So definitely not going to overreact to anything going on other than Tatis not missing 4 to 6 months like I was looking. I want to talk about the All-Star game moving. We don't want to get too much into it because we tried to avoid all the politics stuff here, but it is something to talk about, and we have to address it. So obviously, Georgia passes these new voting restriction laws in their state. You've seen a lot of companies go against it and speak up about it. The PGA has already come out and said, we're not moving the Masters. We're not moving the PGA Championship. We're going to support the businesses there still, and we're going to keep our stuff there. MLB came out and said, we're not. We're going to move the All-Star game from Georgia, which is disappointing, obviously, for all the businesses there. And they decided today that they're going to move it to Colorado, which, for the Home Run Derby, I am all for. I mean, the Home Run Derby could just live in Colorado for all I care.
Yeah. I mean, that's where Griffey hit one of his longest home runs ever in the Home Run Derby. That's where he won it, you know.
Right. Obviously, it sucks for the people of Georgia, but I also get it from an MLB standpoint. That I mean, they are a business after all, and they can do what they want and move games. This is not the first time.
It won't be the last.
A special event has moved. I remember North Carolina had passed a rule. I forget even which law it was at this point, but they had passed a law that got a lot of backlash. I want to say it was something to do about sexual orientation or transgender or something in that ballpark, but it's been so long I can't remember. And games got moved out of there. Like maybe even the All-Star game got moved. So this happens. It's going to happen again. My biggest issue, and I've already got into it with people online, is the MLB took a stand that I don't agree with, so they shouldn't even be a company anymore. You and I can have different beliefs, whether it's sports, religion, politics. We don't have to agree on everything. It doesn't mean that I don't want to be your friend, and it doesn't mean that just because whether I believe a company is doing something right or wrong, or they believe in something different than me, doesn't mean I'm going to want them canceled. It's just, we saw that with the NFL with the kneeling and stuff. If you don't like players kneeling in the NFL, don't watch the first 5 minutes of an NFL broadcast, and you won't see any of that stuff. And if you don't like MLB moving the All-Star game, you probably weren't even going to watch the All-Star game anyways. So who cares? In the end, it's not. I mean, it's a big deal for the people of Georgia because that's a lot of money coming in. But it's also maybe not as much money this year because I'm sure there's going to be restrictions and not as much business coming to Georgia for the All-Star game like most All-Star games would be. So I don't understand the outrage for this. MLB, NFL, well, not as much NFL because usually the Pro Bowl is just Hawaii, but say WWE with Wrestlemania, say the NBA with their All-Star game. Any of these special events, or the NFL with the draft, they're picking and choosing states just beforehand. Like, there's a reason why it's not coming to Idaho. I mean, there's business decisions behind everything. So their business, they can do what they want. Suck it up, get over it. If this is the reason that all of a sudden you're never going to watch baseball again, then you weren't that big of a baseball fan to begin with.
I agree 100%. It's about the dollar. It's about what the best thing is for the company, and it's for all those companies. So it sucks for those guys because we know in this area the benefits of having a major tournament.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
LCSU.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that hurt the pocketbook for the college and their biggest fundraiser of the year, having them in here. Look at all the hotels around here. Look at all. I mean, we know how those people feel. It's like
not even
and all that stuff.
I mean, the NAIA tournament, the Lewiston Roundup.
All
of that stuff is going to bring in business for the entire community. So I feel bad for the communities in Georgia, but in the end, it's not going to make me not watch baseball.
Right. It's a business transaction, and that's that's what it is. I mean, there's no around it. So
obviously we don't live in a big enough area, but even if MLB had said they were doing an event here and then they canceled it because of something political, still watching baseball tomorrow. I mean, I'll disagree with it. And I don't even know if I agree with what they're doing. I haven't looked into it that much. If Georgia is on the other side of the country, so I'm not reading the 90-page law that they passed. I don't have that kind of time to really go into it. And I'm not going to go into the differences between Colorado voting laws and Georgia voting laws. I'll let Twitter deal with that crap. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert on it because I'm not. I've seen bulletin points like everyone else because I'm not reading the whole thing.
Right.
But I'm not even saying I agree with MLB for moving the game, but it's not changing my allegiance to the sport.
Exactly.
So
it boils down. If you're a fan, you're a fan.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're the occasional one that only gets in on the headlines and what's going on, you're not watching for the right reason. You're watching just to take up part of your time. I mean, I think that's where some of us are, diving in different directions. I mean, as much as you and I are into NFL stuff, I mean, I had a strong case against Kaepernick and the stuff that was going on. I'm sorry, when you're out there doing the national anthem, you're standing up for those people that fought for our country and is there. And I have a father who spent years in the Air Force. I have an uncle that was a military man for many years. I have a grandfather that was in with the Korean conflict and all that. For me, and I have such a strong belief with this at the school level when we do the Pledge of Allegiance is, I'm going to be the first one up. I'm going to be, these guys put forth their lives for this. And so I took.
And I just want to say, I want you to continue your story, but I want to give you full credit because I have been there many, many times for Clarkston athletics, whether it's football or basketball, when you are the PA. And you were the only PA that I've ever heard in any arena, whether it be professional sports, high school, college, that makes sure that you say you stand there until we retire the colors. Mm-hmm. You're the only one that makes sure that you announce that and that everyone abides by that. Yeah. And you're one of the last people to sit down even after that. Yeah. I'm just saying that because you do what you preach.
Right, and that's the thing. When you're raised to be with those folks that have given the sacrifice. My dad gave many years for the United States Air Force, my uncle, same way. But even the people that we work with on a daily basis, I work with 4 veterans in the building I work with. And so, it means a lot more to me knowing that I'm representing and I'm giving these people what they deserve, to the point of, okay, I understand you think it's a whole color thing. You do that, do it on your own time. But there's a lot of people that brought forth things to this country. Here you go. Mm-hmm. Don't be that person. It was the same thing when Villanueva didn't want to sit in the locker room when the national anthem came out. Mm-hmm. And I have the most respect for that guy. I'm a Ravens fan. I'm not a huge Mike Tomlin fan, but I respect the idea of Mr. Nueva coming out of the locker room, a veteran, and he stands at the edge of the tunnel for the national anthem, while the rest of his team is not wanting to be involved with it. For me, there's so much more greater things in this nation that we should be respecting. Sports is just the second part.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
And again, in the end, whether you believe for standing or not standing, these voter rights in Georgia or not, what MLB is doing in the end, it's not the end all be all of everything. Right. Like, we could disagree on this stuff, and it should not ruin our friendships. No. And that's what has happened in 2020 and 2021. And I think we're all just on edge with everything. Mm-hmm. And there's so much of just black and white on everything. And if you don't agree with me on this one thing, then be gone from my life. And we're seeing that with friendships, with family members, with sports allegiances, with businesses in general, with actors and actresses.
We're not allowed to have our own opinion anymore.
Yeah.
We're being told this is what we have to believe in. That's it.
I don't know how many times I've tried to have a debate with somebody and get told, say that to my face. I'm like, I don't say my opinion to your face. That's fine. I'm not insulting you. It's just
we're going to agree to disagree on certain things, and that's how 100%. That's how life is.
You're my best friend, and you and I don't agree on everything.
That's exactly right.
It happens
just because you're a Yankee fan. That's stupid, but
stupid shit. All right. I just wanted to talk about it. We went on a few rants, but that's the fun part. And again, you don't have to agree with what MLB is doing.
Kind of like how I don't agree with this trade.
You don't?
No, I don't know. I don't know how I like it.
So Sam Darnold from the New York Jets, which, by the way,
talk about your Jets.
I get out of class. My phone blows up on the way home, and I grab it, and I have 5 messages from 5 different people, all of them saying Darnold gets traded. I'm like, why is my phone losing its mind? But Sam Darnold gets traded to Carolina. The Jets get a 6th-round pick this year, and then next year they get a 2nd and 4th-round pick. I wish they would have been able to figure out how to get a 1, but I'm okay with this.
Right.
This now sets the Jets up to have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds each this year and next year. And I'm on the fence because I like Darnold.
I do too.
He has had a terrible career with the Jets. He has more interceptions than game played. He's averaging over an interception per game with the Jets. I do believe he's going to bounce back with Carolina, and this is a great move for them. I had heard something last week as an idea for both the Jets and the 49ers that I was all in on, and that was, especially for the Jets, to still draft a quarterback number 2 and then get pieces in offensive linemen or a running back or something throughout the draft and help build around. They've done a decent job in free agency for that. But then you tell Sam Darnold you are starting the first 8 games or the first 7 games, wherever that trade deadline is you are starting till the trade deadline, and this is your tryout for other teams. And then we'll trade you at the trade deadline for a team that might need you. And that gives your whatever quarterback you pick at number 2 time to develop a little bit. Sam Darnold gets one last push to try to get him a new job. And maybe you get more picks out of it if you're the Jets. What do you think?
Well, I think I'm more – I kind of back and forth about the whole thing with the roster of who's there. I think what Carolina needs more than a quarterback, and I like Bridgewater.
Mm-hmm.
I like what he did this year. Tell me who their offensive receivers are that are worth
Christian McCaffrey.
Receiver.
Christian McCaffrey's the receiver.
Well, I meant receiver, a number 1. Let's put it that way. You know that Christian's going to get there. Do you think Sam Darnold makes his game better, or do you think Teddy Bridgewater? Because you can't really give a lot of time because Christian was hurt so much off and on this year.
Yeah, he barely played at all this year.
But I look at the receiving core that they have. I mean,
they're decent. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. As a Jets fan, I loved Robbie Anderson.
But I don't think he had near the. I think they need a big target there. They need a really good.
When we get to the mock draft, we will fix their problem. As they are drafting 8th,
something like that. Yeah. I think So
it'll be interesting. I honestly feel this could be a win-win-win. The Jets are going to most likely get a quarterback that's a little bit more mobile. I mean, their offensive line still has issues, obviously. Mm-hmm. It's a very young offensive line. So now you hopefully draft somebody that can move a little bit better than Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's not Tom Brady. I mean, he could still move. I mean, he had that great touchdown run against Denver last year. But getting somebody that's a little bit more mobile. You saw that with Philadelphia, where Carson Wentz just could not get out of the way for the offensive line. You bring in Jalen Hurts, and he's able to kind of escape the pocket, and it just works better with a bad offensive line. It works better for Carolina. I do think Sam Darnold is going to take that big step with them. I've said that for this entire offseason. Is once he gets away from Gase, he gets into a new situation. Tannehill took a good step forward with his new team in Tennessee. Wherever Darnold went, I thought he was going to take a good step. And the offensive coordinator, Carolina, is pretty good. I mean, he was out of LSU. So I think that'll be a good step. So that helps Carolina. Sam Darnold gets in a new situation with some better targets with Christian McCaffrey, Moore, Anderson. So he gets a chance to have his second life in the NFL. And so I think all 3 parties improve here.
So you put him with Sean Ryan, who is the quarterback coach there. And then the offensive coordinator, you've got Joe Brady.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brady was the Aussie guy, I believe.
So, I mean, but you look at Joe Brady, how young he is. Mm-hmm. Is that the spark that Sam Darnold needs?
It's possible, yeah.
Because you look at Sean Ryan. He's been around for years and years. But I think maybe it is a spark, but I just feel bad for Bridgewater because he played so well.
He played okay.
He played a lot better than what he has in many years. Mm-hmm. So
Bridgewater has not gotten his due. I mean, obviously injuries really messed up his career. but he's going to get a chance somewhere else. And it's not going to be. It might not even be a starting spot, but he's going to. They told him they're going to trade him.
Yeah, he's already been going to be shopped. Where would that go? I mean, where would you even look for sending somebody to Teddy Bridgewater? Do you send him up to Minnesota to back up?
Try to win a job from Cousins.
Yeah, Cousins.
Chicago maybe still. It's
well, that's just
Washington maybe still. I mean, it's just Fitzpatrick there, right?
Yeah.
Be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see. They still got a couple weeks. Speaking of possible trades, the Atlanta Falcons, who now are in that first spot that is not really locked into a position, because now Jaguars are going quarterback, Jets are going quarterback, 49ers are going quarterback. So now you get Atlanta with the next pick, and they are open now to trading out of the 4th spot, because that is going to be the coveted spot for any of these teams that want to trade up that we talked about. I mean, obviously Carolina probably doesn't trade up, but if you're looking at a Detroit or a Denver or a New England, the 4th spot is there.
Yeah, do you see my wife?
Yes,
I
clicked it.
She's so silly.
So do you think Atlanta moves out?
Yeah, it's hard to really think about what Atlanta's going to do. I mean, I don't see them moving up. I would, if it was me, knowing that I still have Matt Ryan for one more year, which I think he will be there one more year. You almost have to go a lineman protective of some sort, or do you go running back,
or do you go quarterback of the future?
But but that's the thing. Jacksonville has already said, we're not giving up. Do you think the Jets give up the next one? I mean, they've moved. Yeah, I mean,
not now. They are locked in at 2 now.
Yeah, so looking at that, then if you look at the top 3 quarterbacks, there's a couple other quarterbacks that are not in that list. Does Atlanta go with one? I don't think so. I think
they can get more. The value of their pick just skyrocketed.
Oh yeah,
with the Jets making this trade.
I think so,
because now they're the only game in town to move.
Right. So you look at the other teams like the Miami or a Detroit or even Denver. I hate to say Denver, and Denver move up.
Absolutely. I think Denver is probably a prime candidate to move up.
Right.
Before we get to our mock draft, I just want to go through some of these games that we got added in with the 17th game. And I want to know who your biggest winner and who your biggest loser is. So some of the games we get to is you get the NFC West versus your AFC North. So you're going to get Seattle at Pittsburgh. You're going to get the Rams at the Ravens. You're going to get Arizona and Cleveland. And you get San Francisco and Cincinnati.
Right. So if you don't know, if you guys don't know, the AFC ends up getting one more home game this year. Next year, the NFC will get one more home game. Out of those teams, I think the best one, man.
But who benefits from this? Because you also get Green Bay and Kansas City, which is a fantastic game. And you get Tampa Bay at Indianapolis, which is a fantastic game.
For me, even being a Ravens fan and knowing that that's on there, for me, I'm excited to see Patrick Mahomes. I think that's probably the matchup that
I don't care what the best matchup is. Which team benefited and which team got hurt by having this extra game? I'll tell you right now, the team that benefited the most is the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, well,
you get one extra game, and your other teams get the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Browns, who all won, 10 games last year?
Right.
And you get Cincinnati?
Yeah, you get the easiest one out of there.
San Francisco's the biggest winner.
Yeah. And Tampa Bay's got to be close. I don't think Indianapolis is going to be as good as even them getting wins.
Yeah, but again, with their division, they're not playing that great of people.
Right. You still got Jacksonville. And
I think Green Bay is the biggest loser, having to play Kansas City.
Yeah. I would say that, yeah.
I think the Chargers.
I think that's the best game. But
yeah, that too. But I think the Chargers are no gimme. But if the other two teams that are trying to get going, say Detroit with Jared Goff, they're going to be playing probably the Raiders. I didn't put it on our schedules, either the Raiders or the Broncos. That's an easier chance of getting an extra win.
Well, I mean,
than Green Bay having to go to Arrowhead.
That'd be the same thing with Buffalo getting the game at home against Ryan, against Fitzmagic. I mean, you
And
got one more. You got one more.
Right.
Probably another win there for Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. It'd be interesting. All right, let's get to the mock draft. NFL draft is 23 days away. It's coming really, really, really fast. So we're going to do some draft stuff for the next couple weeks. It's not always going to be a mock draft because I don't see us changing ours too much unless there's trades or stuff. But we'll do some other fun stuff over the next couple weeks. But we're going to give you our top 10. I let Robert have the odd picks.
Did you let me get it,
yes.
or did you coin flip it
I
like
wanted
you did
the Jets.
on the other one?
I just wanted the Jets. So I gave you the odd picks. I took the even picks, so I had my team. So you go ahead and start. So you are on the clock with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, no brainer. I'm going Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville.
We don't want some controversy on our show to try to get some more traffic.
Because, and I'm not a huge stash man. He's already going to be moving on and gone. Gardner not going to be there. So Urban Meyer's already made it clear. We're going Trevor Lawrence, and I think that's what will happen.
Yeah, I have said for the longest time I wanted the Jets to trade down, whether they kept Sam Darnold or not. Now you can't. It's looking like San Francisco moving up to take a quarterback at 3. Like all the quarterbacks are going to be gone if you drop down too far. So you have to stay at 2, and you have to take the quarterback. For me, that's Zach Wilson, quarterback out of BYU. I can't say I watched a lot of the Cougars play last year, but just seeing some highlights of Zach Wilson, he looks good. His pro day was impressive. I like his mobility, and it does look like a lot of the experts are now saying that is where they're going to go. So give me Zach Wilson with my Jets.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I think that's the smartest thing that they've got going is to do that with the Jets.
So that leaves you at number 3 with San Francisco. So do they take Trey Lance? Do they take Mac Jones? Or do they take Justin Fields?
I think they are going to end up going a mobile guy. I really do. I think they're going to go the direction of Justin Fields. I mean, he just moves well for the Ohio State. I think that's the smartest thing for John Lynch to do with that ball club. So let's build a new young group. I mean, yeah, I'm still on Jimmy Garoppolo for this year. Maybe I don't know if he would be the guy that I want with the ups and downs he's had.
But the same, I think I agree with you. And to do the same thing I was talking about the Jets possibly doing with Sam Darnold before the trade. And say you are auditioning for the first 7 or 8 games.
But I don't see him being that veteran guy that's going to teach like a Brett Favre was to Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, Brett Favre hated Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I know they did. But I mean, but to watch those guys in the way that Aaron learned from him and move on, it's the same thing. I don't see Jimmy Garoppolo being that huge leadership like Fitzmagic was with Tua and that kind of stuff. But I think they have to go very young.
I don't think that whatever quarterback 49ers bring in is going to need that, starting quarterback is put their arm around them and is trying to help them out. They just need time to grow and watch. And I think that would work. All right, that leaves me with the Atlanta Falcons. And if they keep their 4th pick, I don't think they go quarterback, even though it'd be really interesting to see 4 straight quarterbacks off the board. And I do think what you said earlier is true, and they're going to give some protection for Matt Ryan and then for whatever quarterback's going to come in the future. Best offensive lineman on the boards out of Oregon and Penei Sewell. So I think that is where Atlanta goes, and it's a pretty good move, which will leave you, sir, with the number 5 pick and the Cincinnati Bengals, and probably the most interesting pick so far on the draft.
And I think for Cincinnati is Joe Burrow needs somebody to throw the ball to. They do need another running back besides Mixon there. But I think Burrows was on the right track. I mean, he had a great start before he got hurt. I think they're going to go and pick up a tight end. I think they're going to get Kyle Pitts from Florida. I mean, Kyle Pitts is a great player for Florida and a huge target. And I think, that's going to give Joe Burrow somebody just real quick underneath. Here you go. Dump it. Use those short passes. I mean, the way the NFL game is starting to evolve and move around, it's becoming hand the ball off, zone read, dump it quick, get your 4 and 5 yards, and just slowly move the ball. It's not a huge take super deep shots anymore like it used to be, or deep outs. And that I think Kyle Pitts is the answer for Cincinnati there at that.
What did he run for their 400s? Like 4.4?
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
For a tight end.
Yeah, it was a crazy number, but.
All right, that leaves me number 6 with the Miami Dolphins. I think they take a wide receiver. Who knows which one? I mean, you got Waddle and Chase and Smith are all fantastic choices to go there. Obviously, Waddle and Smith went to Alabama where Tua went, and you get that kind of a connection. But I'm going to go Jamar Chase, wide receiver out of LSU, to be the first wide receiver off the board and give Tua that target that he needs in Miami. How about number 7? You got the Detroit Lions.
And this one might shock a lot of people, but I'm going on to the defensive side of the ball on this one just because knowing what they need overall, they need somebody that's a little bit bigger presence, pusher on the corner. Give me Patrick Surtain II out of Alabama. I think just coming out of Bama, I mean, that team is almost always bred to have great athletes, and I think Patrick Surtain plays up to what his dad did. I mean, I'm excited to see what he can do, and I think Detroit could benefit from him.
Right. I also can see Detroit trading out too, trading down.
Yeah.
With these 5 quarterbacks, there's a chance all 5 quarterbacks go in the top 10 with teams trading up to get them.
So I
can see Detroit being one of those landing spots if somebody wants to jump up and get a Trey Lance or a
I was going to say, you got Mac Jones, you got Trey Lance. I mean, there's so many names there.
So it'd be interesting. It leaves me with Carolina Panthers, and I switched out just a second ago. I had Waddle here.
I was going to say, I see that now. I go, okay.
But I think with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson for the Carolina Panthers, you have 2 deep threats. So I want the receiver that can play inside. I know he's undersized and he's smaller, but you put him in the slot. I mean, he's going to be a faster Wes Welker, great hands. Obviously, you saw what he did in the first half of the national championship game. They just could not stop him. And I think that's what you need is a guy that's just going to be able to find a hole. And that's why I'm going to take Devontae Smith instead of Waddle here at number 8.
That's a smart move, for what they're doing. I mean, Heisman Trophy winner. Like you said, he's very meticulous on his routes. He's a very good route runner.
Absolutely.
And it was good. Can you imagine what his numbers would have been if he would have made it through to the second half?
Not dislocate his thumb?
Yeah, I mean, it's just nuts. So.
All right, that leaves you with your last pick in this mock draft, with number 9 pick with the Denver Broncos.
Sorry, Denver Bronco fans, but, the team is not going to be set on Drew Lock. It's just not. We're going to take another quarterback here. And then you look at the list that's still there to possibly be in that spot. I'm going to lean Mac Jones. I think Mac didn't get near as much credit as what he deserves. Okay, everybody will probably get on me. Well, what about Brett Rippon? Brett Rippon, Boise State, Spokane boy. You look at that roster right now for Denver. Denver's got Jeff Driscoll, Drew Lock, Brett Rippon. Tell me which one is going to be a number 1 for 10 or 15 years.
No.
I think Mac Jones is that name yet? No. But I think he's a lot better athlete than a couple of the others. I mean, Drew Lock's 24, Brett Rippon 24. Driscoll, I don't see him making the roster. I see him moving on. So give me Mac Jones there, another Alabama player.
That leaves me with the last pick with the Dallas Cowboys. Listen, Dak Prescott got injured last year. I think Dallas comes out looking to protect him. They definitely need some more defense. But you took Surtain, and there's other good defenders out there. But I think this pushes them to go offensive line and give me Rashad Slater out of Northwestern to try to protect Dak Prescott. I think that would be a smart move.
Yeah, I think it's a smart move.
A question to whoever is still listening, because Robert and I both missed it What do you guys think of Aaron Rodgers on Jeopardy? Because I loved the clip at the end with the guy asking about the field goal, and that was funny and all. But even then, Aaron Rodgers kind of seemed subdued.
It's subdued, tight. I mean,
a little tight.
Nervous, I think, a little bit of everything.
So what do you guys think? I haven't watched the whole episode yet, so if anybody's out there that has watched Jeopardy with Aaron Rodgers hosting, we would like to know what you think. All right, let's move on to some LCSC sports. Again, seasons are starting to wrap up here. But I'll give a shout out to friend of the show, Cole Olson, who was here last week. What a title here. He was named the Ustf Ccca West Region Men's Cross Country Athlete of the Year. Can we come up with a better name for this thing?
Yeah. Can you imagine that put on a plaque? Here you go, sir.
Could you imagine saying that without it abbreviated? I don't even know what that stands for. United States Track and Field Cross Country, something, I don't know. I've run out of chances.
Well, yeah,
Collegiate Cross Country Athlete. There you go.
I think that might be it. Could be.
United States Track and Field Collegiate Cross Country Athletics. I don't know.
I think.
But congratulations to Cole. Don't forget cross country doing their nationals on Friday, and we'll talk about that here in a second. And also, speaking of cross country, the head coach, Mike Collins, was named the Regional Men's Coach of the Year. That's a lot easier to say. And LCSC baseball catcher Matt James was voted the Cascade Conference Embrace Health Santiam Hospital Player of the Week. Oh, goodness. I know you got to get some sponsorship in there. But
this is sponsored by Lighthouse Salad Dressings.
He goes
I understand.
10 of 15 this weekend in their 4-game set. He reached base 15 of his 20 plate appearances, had 3 doubles, 3 home runs, 7 runs, and 6 RBIs in the 4 games. So congratulations to Matt, who is in my sports comm class. And speaking of the baseball team, they are now 26-2 on the year, pushing the winning streak to 17 as they scored 60 runs in their 4-game sweep of Oregon Tech.
Yes, you did say that right. 6-0.
6-0 runs. Their lowest scoring game came in their closest game, where Alex Light scored on an error in the 9th inning to win Game 4, 12-11. 12 runs, the least amount of runs they scored in those 4 games. How about the track and field team that just continues to break records as they are taking on much tougher opponents, which is why every time I say they break a record, they're still not winning their meets. But fantastic job by especially these ladies who broke records, including Maddie Carson, who broke her own school record, clearing 3.78 meters in the pole vault. She finished 3rd and ensured her spot at nationals. The 4x100 meter female team of Nikki Halbert, Rebecca Kalbach, Carly Smith, and Annika Grogan, who I feel like I've said those 4 names 20 times this year. They finished 2nd in their meet with a time of 48.54 seconds, which sets a school record as well. They don't have a spot completely locked up yet for nationals, but Alicia said is pretty good that they're going to get in. Chelsea Testa jumps 10.66 meters in the triple jump. She finishes 3rd in an event, but did set a school record and qualified for the Cascade Conference Championships. She also had her best in the long jump with 5.04 meters. So congratulations to her. Women's tennis pulled off the big doubleheader sweep of the College of Idaho. Now 4-7 on the year, as again Kai puts them through the ringer, playing some NCAA teams all throughout the year. But it shows when they play a Cascade team. They won those 2 sets, 6-1 and 7-0. Women's volleyball unfortunately saw their season come to an end. They lost both of their matches to undefeated Eastern Oregon. We said last week it was going to be a really tough test for them. But they lose 1-3 and 0-3 in their 2 matches. Look at the schedule coming up. I said it earlier. Cross country is at the NAIA Nationals on Friday morning. The women will be at 8:30 and the men will be at 9:30. Definitely check out lcwarriors.com to see how all of our competitors do there. Baseball is on the road again with a 4-game set against Corbin. They have 1 game on Friday at 5 p.m. Saturday's a doubleheader at noon and 3, and Sunday will be at 11 a.m. Track competes in Spokane on Saturday. Men's and women's tennis host Treasure Valley Community College on Saturday, and we get golf back in action. They haven't played in a week or two, as they will be in the Bushnell Invitational in Eugene, Oregon, Monday and Tuesday. Robert, how about some local high school sports?
Well, we got coming to the end of football season, and Soton ends up knocking off Northwest Christian Crusaders on Thursday, 27-0. Great season with them. They do finish the season 3-3, and hopefully we'll have Coach Jim Holman joining us next week, talking a little bit of the Soton football, and then bringing in, he is the defending to-be state champion baseball coach, and the Soton Panthers, as they weren't able to defend last year because the games didn't happen. So hopefully we'll have him on the show next week, and we'll talk a little bit with him on that. The Clarkson Bantams do lose a tough one. Oh, man. And let me tell you, one of the biggest thrills that I've ever got to get. You and I have done a lot of different games and different places, but to be able to go walk into a field inside of Martin Stadium, and I don't know if you knew that they renamed the field there at Martin Stadium. So to do the game, call the game live on it was awesome. But Bams come up just short as Pullman comes back and wins. They hit a 25-yard field goal with 13 seconds left on the clock by Jackson Patrick and end up winning and beating the Bantams. The score of 37-34. Eddie Berglund had a so-so first half. He only had 2 plays in the second half. Carried the ball 11 times for 66 yards. He did have one big touchdown on a little zone left run for 38 yards. Nick Schofield had a good start to the first quarter, then ended up going out with a neck injury as he got yanked around there in the second quarter. But he did have a 63-yard touchdown pass to Caden Vincent and a 5-yard touchdown run. Bantams do have a 92-yard fumble recovery by Landon Taylor in the third quarter. That was their only touchdown in the third quarter, but it was all about Carson Coulter, the quarterback for Pullman. Unbelievable kid. He was 28 of 43, 422 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. And they will be playing against Shadle Park in their final game, Adams Field, on Friday, 5 o'clock. I think they're still letting in about 200 players or 200 people. So check out their Facebook page, Clarkson High School Facebook page, see if you can get in and watch one more game of football here in the Valley. Clarkson girls soccer team wrapped up their series this last weekend. They knocked off the number 1 Shadle Park on Thursday, so they got to play for first place in the GSL 2A division on Saturday and come up just a little short 2-1 against West Valley. Jolie Nicholas scores the only goal for the Bantams. She had a whole bunch of goals over the last 4 games, as I believe she scored 6 goals in the last 4 games. So hats off to her. Bengals baseball team, they are back in action this week after spring break last week. They played Moscow tonight. Have not heard a score on that one. Hopefully we'll get that up to date. And a Clarkson Bantam, Amaya Dahl, comes up with the Prep Athlete of the Week as she finishes her final high school match versus North Central. The Bantams beat North Central 3-1. Dahl ended up with 34 assists, 3 aces. And one other thing I didn't add on there, National Signing Day with some of these athletes are going to be for the Bantams. I've already heard it'll be May 12th. It'll be a Wednesday. I'll be down there. I'll cover that, and we'll hopefully get a lot of these athletes on.
Look at some Big Sky football. Eastern Washington still getting things going. Their only loss still coming to Idaho earlier in the year. They beat UC Davis 32-22, and Idaho State wins a close one against Idaho 24-22. So we're getting close to the end of this spring football season.
I love it.
Absolutely. But Weber State still leading the way in the Big Sky. They are 4-0. Eastern Washington 4-1. UC Davis 3-2. Idaho 2-2, and Idaho State 2-3. Some teams below that don't matter. This week you get Idaho State versus that 4-0 Weber State team, and the rematch between Idaho and Eastern Washington. This time on the ugliest red field of all time.
Don't say that to Paul too loud.
I'm hoping he's still listening. If he is, he's probably not anymore after hearing that. But he's so used to that for me. NBA update. I gained a game, and that's all we'll say there.
Just one
game.
Yeah. I think that's the quickest NBA update we've had in a long time.
There's not much to say. Okay. Let's talk about the Vancouver Canucks. That 17 players of their 22 on their active roster and 3 coaches have been put on the protocol list as of Monday. That doesn't mean they've all tested positive, but they had said that almost half of their team roster had tested positive in the last week.
Where do you pull up players to?
Or you just don't play.
You just got to cancel all these games.
They have not played their last 4 games. And we got about a month left in the season, a little bit less than a month in the NHL regular season.
Right. Yeah.
Their next scheduled game right now is Thursday in Calgary against the Flames. We'll see if that takes place or not. But this is the first outbreak for a Canadian team in the NHL this season. We've seen a few. I know the Buffalo Sabres had 7 or 8 on there. There was another team, I forget even who it was, that had about this many at some point earlier on in the year. It is just really interesting as, we're starting to see the second strand, and that's supposed to be a bit more contagious. And that is what reports are saying, is at least one of the positive tests was this new strand, which maybe they're just being a little bit more cautious with it, hopefully. But just crazy to see. With 17 of 22 players are on the protocol list. It's just insane. NHL has done a pretty good job overall, I think. So just to see that crazy of number is pretty. What we got? Eric saying? Eric saying basically locked in that points percentages will be used in the NHL for the playoffs. So it's going to get interesting. As a lot of teams have missed some games, and now we might see a team basically be done for the regular season. Who knows?
It'll be interesting to see. I'm not even sure where they're at percentage-wise in the NHL.
Yeah, I really wanted to get into it. I think I've said this a couple times.
You and I both talked about that.
I really wanted to get into the NHL this year. I'm expecting to next year, as I'm going to, for the first time ever, switch allegiances to a different team. I've been a Buffalo Sabre fan ever since the 90s when I got into hockey. But again, I've stopped following hockey for 10 years or so. And the Kraken start next year in Seattle.
Do we road
I'll jump on.
I would say, do we road trip?
I would. I've never went to a live hockey game. I've been wanting to up in Spokane.
I don't know why they
have.
I don't understand why they haven't started having hockey up there yet. With everything being in phase 3, that was the big thing that I couldn't figure out here last week as I was calling the game with Brian Bremling, the host, friend of the show, up there in Pullman. Still, there might have been maybe 75 to 100 people total. That included all the players, coaches, and there must have been about 15 of us media.
Well, I know Pullman is still a lot more strict.
Yes.
on that kind of stuff.
I had to do out-of-station stuff. I had to have my temperature check, the whole gamut, just to even walk in through the tunnel. So it was crazy.
So that makes sense. You were listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on KLCZ 88.9 FM Lewiston. Currently 55 degrees outside. Just been a wonderful weather day. Definitely check out our Facebook and YouTube pages. Again, we are just 14 follows away from having to play Kai Fong, the legendary LCSC tennis coach, in a 2-on-1 match. So if you haven't followed or liked our Facebook page, please just take a second and do that. It helps us out a lot. I was trying to boost our live show, but Facebook won't let me do that. So I'm going to try to boost it after the show gets done, just to see what Facebook allows and if it helps out at all. But yeah, if you haven't followed or liked the page, please do so. We would greatly appreciate it.
If you're a student here at LCSC and want your voice heard, the Association of Students of LCSC are here to listen. If you need funding for your student club or campus event, or want to voice your opinion on how student fees are spent, or just want to help out the student government, the ASLCSC office is located in room 221 in the Student Union Building. All students are encouraged to stop by and say hi to their reps anytime or to join the council meetings on Tuesday at 4:30 in the Senate chambers next to the office.
All right, now it is time to talk about the sports or sports entertainment, if you will, that don't get a lot of radio time. We're going to give a lot of time for that stuff today because obviously it's WrestleMania week. Everything's going on there. But first, we have to talk Aussie rules football. As yes, your Geelong Cats beat my Hawthorne Hawks on, Sunday night?
Sunday night, real late.
Eric, who is been chatting in the comments on the Facebook page, sat up and watched the whole game with me. We chatted about it the whole time. It was a really, really fun game.
Yeah,
I would say back and forth, but Geelong had the lead the whole time. But Hawthorne just kept trying to get themselves back into it. Listen, Hawthorne is not on Geelong's level this year, so for Hawthorne to be that close the whole time, I was really happy with it. Geelong does win that one, 69-64. Very, very, very low-scoring first half. We were joking about the over-under in that game was 170 or somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And it was never going to get that close. Fourth quarter got a bit high scoring, but still was never going to get close. A couple of other scores that I found interesting. Brisbane beats Collingwood 73-72 as Zach Bailey kicks a goal after the siren to win the game. So basically for anyone that has been listening these last few weeks and still hasn't checked out AFL enough to understand some rules, basically if you catch a kick and it's called a mark and you do it inside the 50-meter, it's like a 3-point line. Basically, it has an arc. But in the 50-meter zone, you can then set up to kick a goal, and you have 30 seconds to do so. So if you make a mark inside the 50-meter zone, under 30 seconds to go in the game, you can wait and let the siren sound, and then you're still allowed to make the kick. That is what happened there with Bailey to give the win to Brisbane. Eric has been listening. He is a big Western Bulldogs fan. They took on the team that is almost dead set. They just give them the wooden spoon now.
That was ugly. I watched the highlights of that. That was just ugly.
Western won 167-39.
It was just like North Melbourne forgot to even show up. I mean, it looked like Western just had their way. They just ran the ball up and down, was able to dribble down, set up a mark wherever they wanted to set up a mark, and they were good. It just did not look like there was any kind of real defense with North Melbourne in that one.
Yeah, Josh Bruce scores 10 goals in that game.
Out of their 24 goals. 10 out of 24 goals. I mean, that's just...
Yes. I mean, I've seen Buddy Franklin score 10 goals in a game back when he played for Hawthorne, but that's still just an insane number.
Yeah.
This is the largest winning margin in Western Bulldog history, but it's not the AFL record, which is held by a team that doesn't even exist anymore. Back in 1979, Fitzroy defeated Melbourne, not North Melbourne, but Melbourne, who's still a team in the AFL, and they won by 190 points, 238 to 48.
That's a lot of goals.
I also saw a score from your Geelong Cats where they won a game by like 170 points because they gave up 1 point.
Yeah. How
do you only score 1 point in a game where the over-under in a lot of these games is 160, 170, 180? Just insane.
Yeah. I want to point this out. I know you jumped right over Geelong's best player. As we were talking about, I told
you I hate him.
Hawkins just looked – he's a beast. And we talked about the player that you – and I couldn't figure out it was CJ, I think is his name there for Hawthorne. Quick guy. I think he is going to kind of – and me just starting and following and getting into it, I think he might be the speedster of your team for the next couple of years. So
he's really good. But no, Hawkins can go away. I'm so tired because he is so good. I respect him a lot, but oh my goodness, I just can't get it. Sydney defeats the defending champions Richmond 117-72. So you have 3 undefeated teams left in the AFL: Western Bulldogs, Sydney Swans, and Melbourne. And your 2 winless teams right now is the GWS Giants and, of course, North Melbourne, who has been outscored 143-382 in their 3 games.
And that's what scares me about Geelong playing Melbourne this week.
Melbourne undefeated.
Yep.
As you said, on Saturday at 10:20 p.m. local time, Melbourne will take on your Geelong Cats. As for my Hawthorn Hawks, they will take on Fremantle on Saturday at 11:40 p.m. And that might be just a little too late for me.
Yeah, especially where I get a bowl. That'll be way too late.
You got a bowl. I've been watching. I'll be knee deep in wrestling by then. Oh my goodness. I'm kind of disappointed. Eric Watkins has been commenting throughout, has not told me how he thought of Aaron Rodgers on Jeopardy when he has a new game show podcast out there, which I am a part of to begin with. Life is a Game Show. Go check that out on podcast services everywhere.
How did your bracket turn out?
Well, just hold on, because we talked about it a little bit. So I somehow talked these fools into allowing me to build a game show bracket like the NCAA bracket and make them pick the matchups and go through it. I don't know why they let me have that kind of power, but it went to my head. All right. We had some fun on those matchups. We have recorded the first 2 episodes where we've done 2 sections of the bracket, just the first round. I've already led Eric to drink. I have been called every name in the book.
Yeah, Haley, we know. Rogers got trolled pretty bad.
Yeah, he had a good time. Eric does say he digs it. A little breaking of the fourth wall, but he has the pace and panache good. Eric, he did regret giving me the power. It'll be interesting. We still have 2 more brackets to go through the first round and then get it closer and closer. But it's been a lot of fun. So go check that out. But now it is time. Hold on. Wrestlemania week. I got my Wrestlemania shirt on for the Facebook people.
Denise actually bought that shirt here not too long ago.
It was Walmart. Very, very cheap. But yeah, WrestleMania 14 shirt for those watching.
I saw Doof that day that we bought that shirt too.
He told me. He's like, because he has this shirt, I have this shirt, you now have this shirt. It is WrestleMania time. And they have just spread it out for a whole week. So let's get into it. NXT TakeOver, Stand and Deliver. Let's look at night 1 first, which will be Wednesday on both USA and Peacock.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get to you some predictions here. Let's start out with there are so many matches this week that could steal the weekend. There's so many just underrated matches that are here. Here's one of them, Pete Dunne versus Kishida. If you've never watched wrestling, Pete Dunne will make anyone believe wrestling's real.
Mm-hmm.
He's from the UK. He has this way with fingers and stuff that just looks like he's cracking them, and just he lays things in really stiff, and he's very old school with the way he wrestles. I'm taking him to beat Kishida.
I am too. I haven't followed NXT as much, so listening to a few of those podcasters talk and reading a few articles, I'm going to go Dunn on his.
For those, especially if you're kind of interested in wrestling, or you just watch Raw and SmackDown, NXT takeovers are the best thing in American wrestling. They deliver every single time. Haley and I actually went to NXT Portland last year, which was basically the last big wrestling event before COVID broke down. And it's so much fun. The next match is an interesting one. It's a gauntlet match. And the winner will face Johnny Gargano for the North American Championship on night 2. And you have Leon Ruff, Isaiah Swerve Scott, Bronson Reed, Cameron Grimes, Dexter Lumis, and LA Knight. Who do you got?
I almost went Bronson Reed just because of his size, but I'm going to go Dexter Lumis.
I love Dexter Lumis. He's so weird. For anyone that, again, does not watch, they had a match this last week on NXT to figure out the order for who would come out in the gauntlet match. They had a battle royal. And basically a battle royal, for those that don't know, everyone starts in the ring. If you get thrown over the top rope and both your feet hit the ground, you're eliminated. Dexter Lumis stood in the corner and didn't move for the first 80% of that match. He's just this weird, creepy guy. He has just ridiculously blue eyes and just stares. He's so great. So I also am taking Dexter Lumis. So we had to vacate the NXT championships because of injury. So you get MSK versus Grizzled Young Veterans versus Legado del Fantasma for the NXT championships, I'm taking the Grizzled Young Veterans. I think they've been really close in there. They're a great heel group. So give me them to win the new titles. What do you got?
Don't know any of these guys. Everybody talked about Grizzled Young Veterans, GYV. I decided, no, I'm going to go and just take a jump elsewhere. So I'm going to go MSK.
MSK did win the Dusty Cup, which is a big tag team tournament they do every January, February time. So very good up-and-coming team. So I can't be opposed to it. Another match I think could really steal the show with another person who, if you're not into wrestling, watch his stuff. He will make you believe.
He's a beast.
Other than the fact that he doesn't look like a professional wrestler.
No.
Walter, who is the NXT United Kingdoms champion. By the way, there's too many champions in NXT anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was noticing when we were
obviously the UK championship is on NXT UK usually, but with all of the COVID stuff, they brought it over here. Same with the Cruiserweight title. That's usually on 205 Live. They've kind of moved it into NXT, but just too many championships right now in NXT. But Walter puts out the title against Tommaso Ciampa. And again, Walter looks a little doughy, just an out-of-shape guy, but his chops, which is basically a backhand slap to the chest, are just so brutal. So I'm going to take him to defend the title. I want to say he's held that title for over 2 years.
Yeah, I'm going to go Walter also. He intrigued me when I was watching the lead up and talking about the match. I just like I said, I haven't got into NXT as much, and so just lean in that direction.
Yeah, Walter won the title on April 5th, 2019. He's still the champion, and I still don't think he loses it, which is just insane in today's wrestling world. And then the main event on night one for the NXT Women's Championship, you got the champion Io Shirai versus Raquel Gonzalez, who I've heard be called the female Diesel, and I 100% agree. She's come in as basically a bodyguard, and now is just running havoc on everybody. And that's why I think this is her big moment to take over. I have Raquel Gonzalez winning the Women's Championship.
She just looks like she's able to beat whoever out there. So it was a no-brainer. I think that we're going to have a championship change there.
Raquel Gonzalez also debuted on NXT TakeOver Portland, where Haley and I went. So there you go. How about night two in a throwback? You get the NXT Cruiserweight Championship determined in a ladder match between Santos Escobar and Jordan Devlin because they both say they're champion. So basically, storyline-wise, Jordan Devlin was the Cruiserweight champion. But because of COVID restrictions and injuries and all of that, he wasn't able to show up to the show for a while. So vacated the title, and Santos Escobar won the tournament and has held it ever since. So now they've both showed up with their championships. So they'll both be put up on a hook. You have to climb the ladder to get it, just like WrestleMania 10 with Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon. I've loved what Santos Escobar has done. So I'm going to go ahead and say Escobar wins this one.
I agree 100% with that one. So nothing more to add to that one. I mean, you hit it all. I love that ladder match. It's just
ladder matches can be crazy. And I love how they announced this match. So you had Devlin and Escobar in the ring arguing. Shawn Michaels' music hit. He came out, stood by the apron, didn't say a word, just reached under the ring, grabbed the ladder, and then threw it in and walked off. He's like, you guys are just doing a ladder match. Let's move on. How about the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship? God, there's so many titles. Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon are your champions. They're taking on The Way, Candice LeRae, and Indy Hartwell. What do you got?
I'm going to take the champs on this one. Ember Moon just looks like she's a mean, tough physical girl, so I'm going that direction.
Shotzi Blackheart is a crazy woman. They just got the titles not too long ago. They just debuted a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'll take Shotzi and Ember here. So now you get the North American Championship match. We both had Dexter Lumis winning the gauntlet match. So Johnny Gargano, the champion, versus Dexter Lumis. Who do you got?
I'm going to stay on the Dexter train. I know he's got to fight 2 nights back-to-back, but I think he's got the chance to do it.
I think Gargano finds a sneaky way to win. He's had this big rivalry with Lumis. I think he does the dastardly heel way and holds on to his title. The big unsanctioned match between former Undisputed Era members, Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. This one's going to be brutal. And I'm going to say Adam Cole wins this match with a debuting somebody who will end up being kind of his bodyguard backup.
Yeah, I just went coin flip. I went the other direction. I'm going Kyle O'Reilly on that one.
And then the main event on Thursday, Finn Balor, the NXT champion, takes on Karrion Kross, who was the NXT champion, but actually got injured in the match where he won the title and then had to instantly vacate it. I think Karrion Kross just crushes Finn Balor in this one to regain the championship that he had never lost, to give him that reign that he was supposed to have last year. And I do think Finn Balor gets called back up to either Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah, for me, that's the edge story again, from WWE. So I'm going to leave it with the champion, stay with Finn Balor.
All right, so there you go. Those are our NXT predictions. Now let's get into WrestleMania, which is Saturday and Sunday. Both nights will be found on Peacock. Let's see. Day one predictions. Let's go through this one really quick. You get the tag team turmoil match, where again the winner will take on the women's tag team champions Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler on in night 2. You get Lana and Naomi versus Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose versus the Riot Squad versus Natalya and Tamina. I don't care about any of these teams. I think they all stink. Give me Lana and Naomi just because.
I'm going to take Natalya and Tamina. Tamina is just mean and physical and has brought a new game to Natalya. So give me those two.
Nobody's meaner than Tamina. Cesaro versus Seth Rollins in another match that could steal the weekend. I'm going to take Cesaro. I think they're finally pushing him. He's so
like
great.
Yeah, I like what they're doing with his storyline. I'm not into the huge storyline with Seth Rollins, bringing him back and how he's doing things.
Monday Night Messiah, who's now on Friday nights.
Yeah, I think Cesaro is going to get a huge upbringing right there.
Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon, the son of the owner, in a steel cage match. I hate this rivalry. I am going to take Braun, but I don't care.
Yeah, I think Shane figures out some way to heal it through, and
I think
he's going to do something.
If you can escape the cage to win, I think Shane probably wins because Braun will throw him through it or something silly.
It's another one of those storylines I'm not too. I don't know. I don't know why they're going that direction when Braun could easily be pushing for a title.
I've just kind of fallen off on Braun, and so is the WWE apparently. WWE Raw Tag Team Championships on the line as the New Day will take on AJ Styles and Omos. Omos making his debut. Omos is a big dude.
Yeah.
Who do you got?
I'm going to take AJ and Omos. I want to see what he can do. And I'm excited. So the up, down, down guys, I don't think they're going to be too into that.
By the way, if you want any more recommendations, the reason we did the tournament bracket for the game show podcast that Eric and Harry have been doing is because of the New Day. They always do their own brackets. They did one for TV shows. They did one for action movies. They're doing toys right now. And it is the funniest thing I've ever heard because the guy they let do brackets, they hate even more than me because they're putting all these great toys against each other. And then he had jacks versus marbles in one matchup. He added a stick and wheel on there.
Yeah,
a sled. So he was having a little fun with it. I'll take the New Day. I'm not sure. I mean, almost this could be a big deal to have him just crush them. But I'll take the champions. Bad Bunny and Damian Priest versus The Miz and John Morrison. There is zero chance Bad Bunny and Damian Priest don't win this match.
I agree. And then the wife watches The Miz and the Misses. She loves listening to him. But I think Damian Priest, he's just huge since he's gotten called up. And I like where he's going with his stuff.
The only way that doesn't work is if I think Bad Bunny is still the 24/7 champion. Or did he finally get rid of it? I stopped caring about it anyways. Yep. But no, there's no way that they don't have Bad Bunny, the celebrity, winning his match. Shayna Baszler, the SmackDown Women's Champion, will take on Bianca Belair, who won the Royal Rumble. They've been pushing Bianca. It's the feel-good story.
Not Shayna. Sasha.
Did I say Shayna Baszler?
Yeah.
Sasha Banks, sorry. But still, I still say Bianca wins.
I agree. I think Sasha is they're gonna go a different direction with her, with this whole Reginald thing. I think that becomes a little bit more.
Reginald.
Yeah.
Bobby Lashley, your Raw or WWE champion, will take on Drew McIntyre. Bobby just won the title. I think they're going to push him strong. So I'm taking Bobby.
The almighty time is going to be over. I mean, I think Drew McIntyre got hosed out of it with everything that went on with The Miz cashing in his Money in the Bank. And so I think Drew gets a title back, but Bobby will be right back at him. I think this will be probably another matchup going into the next pay-per-view.
So that's night 1 of WrestleMania. Night 2, by the way, I think way stronger. Other than this match, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler with Reginald to take on whoever we said won the stupid thing at the beginning of the night. I don't care. Nia Jax and Shayna retain because who cares?
Like I said, Tamina, there's just something mean about her. I think they make a statement here. Like I said, I think things get a little interesting between Nia Jax and Sasha Banks, and they take that storyline that direction.
United States Championship, Riddle versus Sheamus. Who you got?
I think Sheamus wants some gold. I think he's going to knock off Riddle.
I think this is another match. We talking about Walter and Pete Dunne on NXT. Riddle and Sheamus are not going to pull punches. Like this, again, if you ever want to show somebody a professional wrestling match and go, see, it's real, this is the match because their chests are both going to be very, very red at the end of this, backs as well. I'm going to say Riddle retains, though. In a match I'm so excited to see because every time they face each other in the ring, they're best friends in real life, but every time they meet in the ring, it's just magic. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. Unfortunately, Sami Zayn's with Logan Paul, the YouTube dude. Give me Kevin Owens because the only way Sami Zayn wins is out of a sneaky thing, and I think they want to tell this fantastic story and go 20 minutes. So give me KO.
Yeah, I like KO. I think KO got kind of the raw end of the deal against Roman Reigns a few weeks ago. He should have been the champion. Give me Kevin Owens.
The Intercontinental Champion, Big E, formerly Big E Langston, will take on Apollo Crews in a Nigerian drum fight, which I'm sure we will find out more of what that entails on Friday Night SmackDown. They just said the name last week. But I will take Big E to retain. I don't think it's time for him to lose this push just yet. I'm liking what they're doing with Apollo, but I just don't think it's time.
That's where I'm going to take it that direction. I think I like what they're doing with Apollo, giving him the credit. It's time to give the heel the
Nigerian prince.
Right.
Going on.
Yeah, give the heel the Intercontinental Champion.
Then you get the Fiend, the burnt up crisp of a thing, taking on Randy Orton.
Crazy.
And I know a lot of wrestling purists hate this storyline. I give WWE full credit to have this last 6 months, like they have.
You just like Alexa Bliss being part.
I don't like those contacts.
Those are ugly.
That doesn't suit Alexa very well. But no, just the fact that they have been able to build this like they have. But this is the Fiend's first match post crisping. So I'm going to take the Fiend. He was very overdone. Have you seen him?
Yeah, he's pretty ugly. I'm going the Fiend. Randy Orton, the legend killer, he's just about done there. So
if it's anything like I have seen online, that drum fight will be insane. I'm very curious what that match is going to be. By the way, Randy Orton on the Stone Cold podcast a couple weeks ago was a great interview. Anybody that I love the backstage stories, and that was really good. WWE Raw Women's Championship, which again could steal the show. Asuka the champion versus Rhea Ripley. Yes, please.
I think it will be the best. I hate to say it. I think it might be the best match of the really night. Could. And with Rhea coming up, I don't think they hand her the title this quick from NXT. I mean, even though she had a great showing at Royal Rumble and all that, I just don't see them giving her the opportunity that fast.
The only reason I disagree is because last year she defended the NXT title at WrestleMania against Charlotte, and everyone believed that was the time to push Rhea and have her beat Charlotte. And it didn't happen. Charlotte won the NXT title on WrestleMania. Maybe because there was no fans at that WrestleMania, so they went ahead and just went the heel route. So I think this is the makeup match and have her beat Asuka here. I'm kind of surprised they didn't have Charlotte beat Asuka before so they can have that rematch. But I'm glad they did it because I really want to see Asuka and Rhea. Asuka is by far the best female talent in a long time, if not ever.
Mm-hmm.
Rhea Ripley is going to get there eventually. She's very, very young. I just hate her finishing move. She hits everything so solid and it looks so physical, and then she just looks like she lays somebody down.
Well, just watching her flip that table up last Monday, the week when they signed the contract, just watching her flip the table was like, oh, dude. She just looked, wow.
Right, then your main event of night 2, Roman Reigns with Paul Heyman, the Universal Champion, will take on Edge and Daniel Bryan. They added Daniel Bryan late, I think, so either Edge or Daniel Bryan can pin each other to take the title off of Roman, but Roman can say he wasn't pinned and go that route. I'm going to take Edge to win the championship.
I agree that Roman is not going to be the champion after that night. I think Daniel made him tap. I like whether they went with that, but on the other hand, the official didn't see it. Edge has just got too much bottled up. I think he overplays it, so I think Daniel Bryan comes out with a win.
I can see it. So there you go. That's our NXT and WrestleMania previews. Thank you for those that don't care about wrestling for letting us waste 20 minutes to talk about stuff that we're interested in. Just really quick, because we got 2 minutes left on the show. Masters are this weekend.
Greatest tournament of the year, always.
100%, even when it was in the fall last year. I'm taking Justin Thomas to win. He finished third, I think, last fall.
Yeah.
So let him get the win here.
Number one man, Dustin Johnson, but I'm going to go John Rahm. He's just a big dude. He's ready to win. I think it's his turn.
All right, give us 2 or 3 this week in sports history.
A couple of them, there are lots of different ones. 1969, Seattle Pilots trade a little-known minor league outfielder Luke Nella to the Kansas City Royals for 2 prospects. Hits 282, 11 home runs, 68 RBIs, and ends up winning the Rookie of the Year after getting traded away. 1974, American golfer Lee Trevino goes bogey-free on 4 full rounds at the Greater New Orleans Open and wins by 8, beating Ben Crenshaw. 1974, Hank Aaron ties Babe Ruth with a home run record with his 714th. And Bill Elliott sets the NASCAR qualifying record of 212.809 miles an hour in 44.99 seconds at Talladega. And 1990, John Stockton reaches 1,000 assist mark for NBA career 3 years in a row. On the list, he is first, second, third, fourth, sixth, eighth, and ninth with over 1,000 every year.
All right. Give me the trivia question.
All right. Which one do you want? You want NASCAR or do you want basketball?
I want WrestleMania. I want a WrestleMania trivia question.
All right. No, I don't. Who? Yeah, I do have one WrestleMania stat on there I didn't do. 1995 WrestleMania. Yeah, WrestleMania. NFL linebacker Lawrence Taylor defeats Bam Bam Bigelow.
Also the first WrestleMania I watched live.
Yeah, so
give me NASCAR.
NASCAR. Who owns the quickest lap at Talladega? It is not Bill Elliott. He does not own the quickest lap. Who owns the quickest lap?
Dale Earnhardt.
No, sir.
Darn.
Dale Earnhardt had already passed away by this time. It's actually Rusty Wallace. Back in June 9th of 2004, he went 216.309 miles per hour at a lap time of 44.27. The only thing is it was not a sanctioned race where he went.
Check the comments, sir.
Uh-oh. What comment did I do?
I'll let you know.
Yeah. I hadn't got there yet. I knew I had that there. Happy anniversary to my parents. Yesterday, April 5th, they celebrated, I want to say 52 years. 52 years together, married. Happy anniversary.
Listen, they sat through 20 minutes of us talking professional wrestling and their son and Aussie Rule
Football.
To have their son announce that on a radio show. So they wanted to make sure they got that. A happy anniversary to you guys, for sure. That's it. That's our show. We cut so much from our notes.
Much out.
So again, so much jam-packed. 2 hours is just not enough for us, but we're having fun. I hope you guys all have a fantastic week and a weekend coming up. Watch wrestling. Watch Aussie Rules. We're trying to get the word out to all of those stuff. Obviously, wrestling is a little bit more popular than Aussie Rules.
Right.
I want to get people involved in Aussie Rules. That's my goal. But that's Robert. I'm Randy. And for now, we are out.